Good afternoon. The Transportation Committee meeting is about to begin. We are missing one of our members, Alderwoman Pendale Charles, but given the fact that we do not have legislation to vote on, I would like to get the presentations out of the way. For roll call, we do have Alderman Savage, myself, and can I have a motion for approval of our agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. And how about approval of minutes from 5/8/24?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved. Heading right into our agenda, the first item on our agenda is the Transportation Board update with Kirk Riegel.
Thank you. I'm Kurt Riegel, Chairman of the Transportation Board. First of all, I'd like to begin by thanking you for your good work and your success in getting the resolution to the state approved and through City Council. I need to alert you to one thing. We have done this before, and there is a mechanism for transmitting these resolutions to the state. Doesn't always work. So, in fact, the last time we did this, neither Sarah nor Dana had received the city resolution. So I would suggest that you have any way of doing it, that you separately address those legislators, those members of our delegation, so that they get the resolution. There's a mechanism for all of these things, but it doesn't always work. Right. The second thing is that we have nominated members of the Transportation Board to participate in the Transit Development Plan revision, which is underway now, and they will be participating. This will be a very short presentation. Our meeting this month, I will not attend. It will be chaired by another member of the board because I thought you had a little cleanup work that needed to be done in the Netherlands, so I'm going to be over there for 2 weeks. So if you have anything you'd like me to do, let me know. But looking forward to a nice trip to the Netherlands. That's all.
Thank you very much. Here's Alderwoman Pendale Charles. Thank you for joining us. That's all right. Next up on our agenda is ID 10724, Waterworks Park updates. Eric Lashinsky. Welcome. Thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome. Happy to be here. Eric Lashinsky, Chief of Comprehensive Planning. So I know that we've had, I may need a little bit of guidance on the specifics of what you'd like to cover, but we did do a study in the last year for improvements to the parking area at Waterworks Park, primarily with an interest in expanding visitorship to the park and activating the underutilized historic buildings there, which are frankly, depreciating in value every year. And they're notable historic buildings. The pump house building at the dam, which is the primary access to the park today, was designed by probably the most prestigious architecture firm in the Baltimore area. That was sort of the house architect for the B&O Railroad, Baldwin and Pennington. And so we have a significant building there that is vacant, and the idea of activating that building in some way that would enhance the park was really the idea. So I wanted to just walk through the parking study that we did, the circulation and parking study, and just kind of give you a sense of what it is. I know that we've had funding in the CIP for a couple of years now, and that changed with this current budget. We used a portion of funding to do this parking study, and then my understanding is that the funding that's in the CIP for next year would be put towards the parking improvements there, which would help to get the project going. So let me pull up this. Let's see here. So I think, it's important to let anybody watching from home know that this is a unique city property. It's outside of the city limits. It's about 600 acres. It's the former water reservoir for the city. It's primarily forested, pristine land. It has, I think, approximately 12 miles of hiking and mountain biking trails today that were put in a few years ago and are very, very popular. You could see the existing reservoirs, historically used reservoirs are today just lakes. They're portions of the Broad Creek that were dammed, and so it's an incredible park environment that is not as easy to get to as it should be. And so see it's right off of Defense Highway. That's where the primary access is. You can see the dam is right here, and right in front of that is the pump house building, and there's a small parking area, and there's a house near Defense Highway where I believe a caretaker lives today that I think is on staff with the city. And then part of the property also includes the city's current water treatment facility for drinking water facility, which is just up the hill, also accessed from Defense Highway. That's right here. And that's our modern facility that was renovated or built sometime in the last 20 years. I don't know exactly, but it's a relatively new facility. And part of that facility includes another historic building from the 1920s that is not really used much. I mean, there's some storage in there, but it's an incredible, impressive building as well. And so both the pump house building, both these buildings that are highlighted in red are kind of the focus, but I would say that the immediate improvements will be for the area around the pump house, which is where, again, the park visitorship happens. And so that's sort of the priority. I think there's been interest in utilizing the building near the water treatment facility for something that would be more akin to a educational program run by University of Maryland, or something that's doesn't necessarily have as much of a public profile, but what would still be a use that the city could lease out, to an organization outside of the city. But the security issues are much different there. And so when you look at the pump house building at the park entrance, this is the design, the concept design that was prepared by the landscape architecture team. I'll back up before I go into that. This is the plan today. In red is the pump house. You see in gray the Defense Highway, and the access to the park is this driveway. It goes past this dwelling, historic building. It's another historic building, I should say. And then you have a parking area near the dam here that's for about 14 cars today. And you have some obsolete, unused infrastructure cylinders here, holding basins, I guess you'd say. And basically there's quite a bit of infrastructure around here that's not really used anymore. So it's just sort of sitting there. So the task was, well, how do we tie this all together in a way that might be interesting to the park? the team looked at opportunities and constraints with the site, basically access, where's the sound coming, there's a lot of traffic along Defense Highway that you can hear, where are the views to the lake from the rooftop of the historic buildings, and then kind of going back to what they came up with, they found, sorry, I just want to also speak to the constraints here are also significantly related to the floodplain, that, the site is in the floodplain. It's hard to tell, but there's a red boundary, there's a FEMA boundary here in red that kind of wraps the whole site. And then you have wetlands and wetland buffers and stream buffers. So there's a relatively small area that would even make sense to do anything with, but it's sort of necessary to make this building more usable. And so what the team came up with was relatively conservative concept where some additional parking is carved out right here. It's, I believe, 17 additional spaces. Actually, I'm gonna have to zoom in. 12, about 25 spaces right here. They used the current parking lot near the dam for sort of planting area and more pervious features, and then there's a turnaround and 5 parking spaces here. Essentially, they tried to create an entry sequence that would make sense for people who are coming to the park that would be going to this building for some, whatever happens to be in there, whether it's a food service or educational center of some kind. And then there'd be this, the drop-off for people who aren't parking. They also created this drive up the hill here, which would be more for smaller vehicles. If there was a shuttle, like a golf cart shuttle or something like that. But they envisioned a pedestrian walkway over the roadway from this area to the roof of the historic building, which would have some seating areas for views onto the lake. And, essentially trying to imagine what this place could be without really a specific use in mind, just knowing that it would be something that would be compatible with the park and would be really designed to encourage more use of the park. And we think this is very doable, but there would be obviously a lot of permitting involved, and the parking area would most likely be a model in sustainable design. So, being that we're in a floodplain and everything should really be as pervious as possible. And so that's the general idea for the pump house. Yeah.
Of course.
Just a question on that. I'll save most of my questions for the end, but on the right, mid-right, is that I see a trail or path?
Yeah. So the pump house site that we're talking about is at a much lower elevation than where the water treatment facility is up the hill. And there's already I wouldn't call it a trail, but there's a cleared area where there's underground pipelines connecting the water treatment plant up the hill to this site. And so today you could walk up the hill between the two sites. It's not marked as a trail per se, but it's essentially a grassy, cleared area between the trees. And so the idea was to formalize that and put in a path that could have a golf cart. It's pretty steep, so it might have to have some switchbacks, but at minimum, it could be a formalized trail for people to walk up the hill. And the reason, part of the reason for having that connection is will make more sense when I show you the plans for the other site. But we found that we could carve out some parking on the upper site by the water treatment facility that could be for staff at this lower site. It wouldn't necessarily make sense as public parking, but for staff, it could make sense. And so I could go ahead and just share the concept for the upper site, and we can come back to this. Let's see. Oops. Sorry. Sensitive here. Okay. So this is the same map at the beginning that we looked at. So the upper site is very different. I mean, it has a highly secure, municipal building, modern municipal building, our water treatment facility. It's behind high fences and gate. So you can't just enter this facility today, and that's obviously for good reason. So the concept was really different here, and it really looked at, well, what could reasonably be done to not put this facility at greater risk. This drawing just kind of shows some of the existing constraints and opportunities. There's the drive access is from Defense Highway as well. I mean, it's some of the same issues. And essentially what we came up with was this opportunity to carve out some additional parking on the access drive by moving the gate up closer to the facility. So maybe not that much, actually. I thought it was, just a little bit. So the gate moves up just a little bit, but then that access road is very wide. It's not like a typical street, but we found that we could easily carve out about 25 spaces right there along that access drive. There's sort of a new roundabout, and then there's some proposed spaces, right? This is the historic building that's sort of mostly vacant today. 6 spaces right here, and then 12 spaces next to what is currently the staff parking for the water treatment facility, which apparently had, these 12 spaces right here were permitted as part of the original water treatment plant construction, but were sort of cut out of the budget for cost reasons. So, again, I think these spaces inside the gate would be for people who, if this waterworks facility, this underutilized building was leased to University of Maryland or an organization like that, and they had some staff that were, past some kind of security clearance, these spots inside would be for them. These wouldn't be sort of general public parking. The ones outside the gate could be for general public or more likely for staff that are needed for the lower facility. So that's the basic idea. I mean, the team looked at, connecting the trail. You could see that on the left here, the trail here is what connects down to the lower site. I think, we wanted to see if that was even feasible, but from a security perspective, there's a lot of reason that wouldn't necessarily fly, to have that be connected into the, but essentially what you're seeing in this darker line here is a secondary boundary that you could have this connection be open and still have this water treatment facility be secure behind this secondary fence line, which is right here. And, I recognize that would probably be tough to justify, but in theory, it's feasible. So, so that's what we did. Again, emphasis is on the lower site. That's where park visitors come today. And we just wanted to kind of look at both these sites together at the same time. But I'm happy to go back to either of these. Yeah.
So Eric, the primary reason for adding those parking spaces would be if the city moved in the direction of utilizing the, I'm going to call it the antique pump house.
Yeah.
The older building, if they were to put that into use by an education. So that would be the purpose of the additional parking spaces.
Yeah, any kind of use in the historic pump house building, because of its location, it really, parking becomes the major constraint, aside from the fact that it's in this flood zone location, but just really getting people there. I mean, you invest money into this facility, you want people to use it. People are going to drive for the most part. And parking is very limited. We did look also across Defense Highway. There's an office building that has a lot of parking that's not used on the weekends or evenings, and that's also potential. But we were just trying to carve out additional parking where it made sense, and so it's all, I would say, for the most part, in the service of the lower historic building and whatever use that would take on.
And as far as the project goes, the lower building, I mean, are we moving forward? Is that definitely in the works and then we're holding off on the?
Well, we're interested in doing an RFQ, I guess it would be like an RFP, to basically solicit interest from folks that might have an interest in, and we would craft the scope to basically say, this needs to be something that enhances the park, that is environmentally sensitive, that sort of fits in the context here. It's, I wouldn't say that it's unique among park sites. Also, the impacts to neighbors is very limited. I mean, there are not neighborhoods right next door, so that's but we're encouraging something that's more passive, and we haven't drafted that RFP yet, but that's the idea, is to try to get private development to help foot the bill for investments here and use some city money to do some of the infrastructure costs, but it would essentially be like a public-private partnership. We would most likely lease the building to a private entity through a lease agreement, and we would also be asking for improvements to the park beyond the pump house. I think there's opportunity to kind of activate the lake with, paddle rental or stuff like that could be, fun for people to use while they're there. But
Sure. Rhonda Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the additional parking across the roadway, that's a pretty dangerous roadway to cross.
I totally agree, and that's why it's not really. It would be a hard thing to pull off. I think you could have a shuttle maybe that goes back and forth, like the kind that the hotels use downtown.
Right. Especially if you had a special event over there.
Right. It's a steep hill going up to the parking, and but yeah, I mean, it would be a tricky thing without having that dedicated shuttle. I don't think you'd find many people willing to.
All right.
It's pretty dangerous crossing Defense Highway.
Very.
Yeah.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do love the idea of activating this facility, the park, because I'm often there with my dog and son and wife too, hiking around. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Wetlands of special state concern down there. So presumably anything will have to be coordinated with MDE at some point. So I do like that idea and putting that building to some actual use before it completely falls down. Presumably, part of this plan at some point, I guess part of the RFP is going to be rehabilitating that building and then as a part of their overall plan.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we would really want to lean on the a developer partner to do. You know, somebody who saw the value in restoring that building for a use. Yeah, that's really the goal.
I'm going to give you a lighthearted hard time here because I know you well enough at this point. I think you know, as far as we're talking about parking as a way to activate this parcel, parking, and I'm going to give the mayor a hard time when I see him too, also lightheartedly, because. I don't think, you know, we're trying to do the opposite in the city, but since we're in the county, we're going to, and I know it's different, right? It's down 450, but, you know, I've been down there frequently. I was just looking at the street view down there. And, you know, I think it might be worth thinking a bit more out of the box as far as, because we do have a huge sea of asphalt up at the mall. Right. And I know even now when people, myself, sometimes when we go to mountain bike, we just park at the mall and bike down. So there's that huge lot up there. We're willing to bet we could come to some sort of deal with them and the county to partner on taking a part of that lot, setting it aside for this use, maybe putting in a little bike share, having a shuttle pickup drop-off point. Because there is, when you look at 450, there is enough room to reorient the lanes there. It's mostly a 2-lane road, but it has all these some cases it has a large, probably 8 to 10 foot wide shoulder with no use. And then it has these random turn lanes, which you don't really need on that size of a road, I'd argue. But my point is, if you can actually just make it a 2-lane road, use the room you're saving on the side to actually put in a separate multi-use path. So you could use that for the shuttle, you could use that for the bikes. I think that'd be a really interesting way. And I know that might make it more difficult for people putting bids on this project because they always think like traditional, right? Traditional developer, you want parking. That's how you get people to the property. But I'd push you to kind of think beyond that, because I think we do need some parking there for the people who are going to continue to fish. The people, hopefully we can activate the pavilions that have sat there unused for past 15 years. You know, people who want to, so those uses I think are going to need some access to vehicular access, but maybe the rest of it we can connect up to the mall some way. You know, I think the mayor has a number of partners with the state. He might be able to have some conversation with them about how to make some improvements on 450. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Same question.
I could see, you know, giving in the way we score the the proposals that come in, you know, any proposal that sees an opportunity for encouraging people to get there without a car, you know, but recognizing that we do need some parking. But yeah, I mean, I think we want to encourage creative ideas and I think, you know, I mean, it has the potential to really be a magnet for people to get there as part of their like trail activities, you know, so. Yeah.
And, you know, I think the county has, some greater visions for the mall, as far as potentially putting a transit hub there. I think this could fit right in once we get the WE completed. The WE is going to take people directly here as well. So I think it just doesn't make sense to all of a sudden say, oh, you can take the WE out here, but then you're going to have to get back in the car to get to this. You know, let's look at some alternatives. So, and the other point, I guess I'm a little hesitant, nervous about security issues at the water plant. Because again, it just feels like we're trying to shoehorn in parking. You know, we're going to do it here by moving the security fence and just to fit in parking, when it's like, let's look at maybe some of these other alternatives.
I agree.
Yeah.
I know that's what you believe down deep. We'll be here to support you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's the improvements to the upper facility by the water treatment are much harder sell, I think.
Great. Well, we really appreciate you coming in and presenting that. I know that I've had several people ask questions about it, especially regarding, you know, how it's going to connect to the WE and the West East Expressway. I'll say it so that people know what we're talking about. And so I appreciate the fact that you guys are looking at ways to bring more people there. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Happy to share.
Thank you so much. You're good. All right. We're going to keep moving right along. And the next on our agenda is ID 1624, Annapolis Premium Parking updates.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks. Is it here?
You're going to do the Annapolis Premium Parking update?
Yeah, we're going to do it in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Alderwoman Pindell Charles and Alderman Savage. First off, I'd like to, Marcus Moore, Director of Transportation and Parking. I'd like to introduce to my left, Mr. Vinod Abraham, who's joined our team. Vinod Abraham, who's joined our team about a month ago as our new parking program manager. So he's just starting out with us, getting Pantha and I some help with a lot of the logistics that go around with what we're working on with our 2 parking contractors and all the assets we have around in the garages and on the streets with parking going on. But I'll give Mr. Abraham a chance to give you a little bit of a background about himself. Here.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Vinod Abraham. I'm the new parking program manager at the Department of Transportation here under Marcus. And I'm glad to be here. And I bring with me over 15 years of operations management experience. And I look forward to working with all of you in serving the people of this historic city. And thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, what I'd like to just kind of give you a department update, and then we'll have Premium Parking has a presentation to kind of update on what we've been working on. But as you know, Park Place Garage has now gone gateless. Everything's turned on, it's working well. Lessons learned from Hillman of what we put into place there at Park Place. It does accept all the payment methods that Hillman does, which is Park Mobile, their app, SP Plus's app, a QR code, and there is a kiosk, and it's located in a lobby area where you would pick up the Magenta shuttle. So you do have all those options, and it's working out quite well. So GOTS will be the next one that's going online probably towards the end of this month, followed by Knighton. Then all of our parking garages will be gateless. The TDP kickoff, as Transportation Board Chair Regal mentioned, will be on Tuesday the 25th at our office. Invitations have been sent out to Madam Chair for sharing on the Transportation Committee and the board stakeholders. If you haven't gotten it, I'll make sure with Mr. Dua, and I can check tonight, make sure that gets out so we can invite you. 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, KFH, the transportation planners that are leading the efforts, will conduct this meeting with questionnaires. It's pretty much the same in line of what we did 5 years ago when it was presented around about 2019. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do different. And as you know, we're making a bit of changes. with, our micro mobility. We should have the soft launch, I would say early July. I'm not sure if it'll be right before the 4th of July, but we're really excited of what that will bring, what that means. A lot of our service areas don't require a bus to come down there every 30 or 45 minutes or an hour. So the on-demand concept, remember, this is a pilot. We're stretching it out. We'll make tweaks and move it around as we see fit, as you guys give us feedback as well. So we're pretty excited about those things happening. See, Park Place. I think that's all we have. So premium parking is going to come up and give us an update on a continuation of our last month's meeting, where we talked about some of the economic dials for this garage, Hillman, and the employee parking events and all. So we're going to come up and do that. Have them come up. Bring one more.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Moore, I owe you a return phone call, so I apologize. I'll get to you probably in a couple of days.
No problem at all. So we're here to assist as
Thank you.
best we can.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now I'm on. How are you all? Good seeing you. Chester Escobar with Premium Parking, Vice President of the East Coast. So I have the pleasure today to introduce Jason Prola to you all. As a company, we always are looking to just become more responsive to our needs, and as we grow, and we are growing at a pretty good pace, what we decided to do is divide a little bit of the territory here so that we do have a little bit more focus on some of the issues that are going on and that we've seen. We don't want to repeat the same issues again. So I just, think I want to make sure that everybody knows that Brendan has done a great job for us, and I appreciate everything he has done, and he'll continue to work through this, and he'll be with us. He'll be more in the Baltimore area. And so we carved out DC and Annapolis for Jason, and he'll be taking over. I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself, but his attention to detail, his responsiveness has served him well in his great parking career. But more importantly, he's got some experience here, and he'll tell you about that as well. I think he was here at the very beginning when SP Plus took over the parking down here. So he's got a lot of great experience so that he can share with everybody on the team. And then I'm going to let him take it from here. You're going to see some updates. You're going to see some good news. You're going to see some things that we're working on. But I want to just make sure that you understand that, parking is not something that we could say, okay, it was great last month. We're done. See you later. No, that's the reason why we want to continue to have the same focus and make sure that we're taking care of the needs of the city, through Abraham and Marcus. So, and that's it. And then Brendan will continue to help us out throughout as well. So, Jason.
Hello, I'm Jason Prola. I think some of you know me or of me, but I've been in the business for 12 years. I started with SP Plus, and in 2016 I was the senior manager when we privatized everything and made that change. And I'm happy to be here and be back. And quickly want to say thank you to Brendan. He's been absolutely fantastic and a wonderful resource for me as we've transitioned. And he is in Baltimore, and we live 5 miles or so from each other. So he'll continue to be a partner and a resource for us as we continue to go forward. Other than that, I'm comfortable and happy with where we're at, but I see a lot of opportunities too. And so I'll continue to forge that path, just like Brendan has been prior. As far as the update, things we want to start off with are the initiatives that we've had ongoing, and then we'll follow up with some operational notes after that. The first is the SOP, which is complete. That's obviously a living document that will continue to improve and change and adjust as operations ask us to, or we find better ways to process things and handle our workload. And so that's just a document that I know we have had as a deliverable to you, and we want you to know that it's finished and in place, and we're working with that in our operations daily. And then the second note is special events here. And by special events, I don't mean the garage events. We mean large events in the city. I think that obviously as an operator comes in and a new garage is built, you learn a lot along the way. And with the most recent event, Commissioning Week, we were very happy with the way things went. We made some on-the-fly changes, especially on Tuesday. They went well. We were able to use sort of the counter that we have to know where we're at, and at that point rally troops to the garage. We were able to put people at the entrances to the garage to start to manage the traffic flow as capacity started to hit max. And then we were able to actually pull our attendant, have him going through the garage every 30 minutes doing space counts so we could backfill and continue to drive that revenue while keeping it under control and not having cars loose with that amount of foot traffic that we had that day. And it went great, and the revenue was great as well. So it all sort of fit, and that will be something that actually works its way into the prior bullet point as an SOP for large event days going forward. And we'll be doing that for Juneteenth, which is our next big day coming up as well. And then on the focus groups, that whole process is in the implementation and feedback phase. We're scheduling for July. This exists in the platform right now. Most of it has even been tested. There's just some language changes and things like that that we want to go through before we sit down with them. And the plan is to have them be the first folks that use it, test it, and provide further feedback once it is live. And then the last piece is promo codes. Our hope, we're saying July, August, could be much later, but those will, for the residents, live within the app, meaning you won't have to remember it or write it down and remember the piece of paper that you had with you. You'll be able to reference them in the app and know your code instead of memorizing them. And then just a light note, but we are going to simplify them as well, so it's not 14 random characters. It'll be random, but less complicated to type in. And then on operational notes and updates, we've had one mystery shop since our last meeting. That came back in May. It was 100%. Great to see. Frankly, we get more value out of them when it's not 100% because we get feedback that we can work on. But it's nice to have. And then after that, this is our trend since December for these shops. It's great that they're all above 80%. In the NPS world, that's really the goal, 80+%. There's a bit of a trend upwards overall, but we'll just continue to monitor this, update you guys, and review the feedback or the shortcomings that we have so that we can address those as we go. And beyond that, as far as residents, this is the time of the year for permits. No small task, but we are prepared for it. We have sort of a task force ready to go to assist with that. They're working on this now. We sent out the first communication on the 3rd, and that was just full scope. It's coming, be aware, here's what you need to do, here's instructions, here's links to guides if you need more than just a written instruction. And another of those will go out on the 15th. And then the last piece is the codes, referring to a previous slide. We are putting them into our platform as we go. And so that when the codes are accessible within the account, they'll be stored there and viewable. The Hillman wait list has actually grown. It's up to, and the Parker count. So we have 302 paid subscriptions, about 60% of the garage. The wait list has grown to 244 requests, representing 285 monthly Parker requests. And one note on those is if you do choose this product, you will remain on the wait list for the Monday through Friday, well, the 24/7, 7 days a week product as well. So it's a way to massage sort of saying no, but giving an option, and lets them have a way to park most of the time when they visit for work or whatever it may be. And then on Hillman Garage stats, this is just an update. You've seen this in prior meetings, but this is top left, your transient volume by day of the week. Makes a lot of sense. It adds up to the business drivers that we have. And then I always like to look at duration of stays. 60% of them, 72% of them are 3 hours or less, which kind of adds up to an evening downtown. And that's perfect. It's how the garage was designed and how the market works. So beyond that, this is a heat map, and really the shading is the highlight here. And you can just see the traffic to the facility throughout the week by hour. And it makes sense. I think Sundays are surprisingly busy early on in the day. But other than that, it's just something nice to look at and understand what's going on with the
What's the total capacity again?
Yeah, it's a great question. I see what you're looking at. So this is active sessions. It's 588. Now you have an option to pay for any amount of time. So if you've paid for more time than you've been there and you leave early, that space becomes available, and so you can grow this number. And that's all we have.
Excuse me, Alderman Savage, does that answer your question? Because I know what you're looking at, 588 capacity, and you're looking at numbers as high as 618. Did Mr. Perola's answer satisfy your question?
Yeah. I was just thinking to compare it to the. I didn't even see the 618. Oh, I see. It's on Sunday.
And the Sunday time frame for the free parking is 9 to noon, 9 to 1?
No, right now it's in after 6 a.m. and out before 1, and we're hoping to change that to be consistent with our other garages between 6 and 2. So that's Sunday for anybody, not just a resident of the city, in after 6, so 6:01 and out by 1:59 on Sundays only.
Okay. So how does that equate for 1 p.m. on Sundays being 6:18?
So this is going to give you active sessions, meaning they've made a payment. Now, they could have left before their session expired that they paid for, and so you can have essentially a transaction for more. You can have more than one transaction for a space available in the garage if that's the case. So if you were to pay for all day and you leave after 4 hours, you're going to show in this report all day long for 24 hours as a paid session. And it's a product of gateless and paying before you leave the garage to go visit Annapolis versus paying when you leave, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You're picking your time that you're going to park. And so if you leave earlier than that, you'll remain in this data, but you won't be in the garage. So someone else will be able to backfill that, start a new session, and also count as one here.
Yeah, but you can see that the overlap is very small, and what you're seeing is a healthy transient parker mix where people are coming in and out. So oversell factors are very common in our industry, and this is a healthy garage, especially on a Saturday and a Sunday. That means that people are coming in for Sunday brunch or breakfast. They're leaving. Another group is coming in, and it's very typical for a Saturday and Sunday.
So is that Sunday, those numbers, the 554, 618, are those paid or are those cars? Are those license plates or are those paid?
These are payments.
So it surprises me that Sunday is the highest numbers when we have it free till 1.
So yeah, that's what I was just talking to Jason about. What this trend is telling us is, one, there's very minimal loss of revenue by offering these free church hours, the 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., these purchases are people coming downtown to visit beyond 2 p.m. So the garage still has a very healthy transaction rate, even when there's that short duration free option to 2 p.m. So these are, in general, families coming down, tourist families coming down for lunch, staying around the waterfront.
Okay, thank you.
That begs a question about I think I'd forgotten about the church, I guess the free church period. How does that work exactly?
So enforcement is actually disabled because we wanted that to be an action-free period. We kind of had the option, do we want to create a free rate, require the parker to register their license plate for that? The benefit of that option is at the end of that stay, which would be at 2 p.m., they'd get an alert if they wanted to stay to extend their parking. We figured based on who's going to the church hours, how long someone generally stays for church, there'd be an overwhelming demand just for action-free parking. Let me park, let me go to church, get back to my car and go. So the cameras are disabled for any short-term enforcement during that 6 to 2 p.m. time. Our on-foot patrols still patrol the garage exclusively for behavioral transactions, not parking in a space, parking in 2 spaces, parking in a handicap, EV, things along those nature.
It seems like to maximize revenue generation, it would make more sense to do like a code like you're doing with the residents. So if you go to church, your church will give you a code, so only the churchgoers, will get the discount. Because we're essentially giving everybody a free pass from 6 to 2. That just doesn't seem to make sense if that's a busy time in general. So have you considered that approach? Like,
I believe the free hours are codified.
It is.
Yeah, it has been going on even in the old garage, so even the others, before they've gone gateless like Park Place, it's been in there. So don't want to look at just that one demographic of churchgoers. It could be the brunch crowd or just somebody coming down to walk on City Dock. So giving the code to someone, we're not knowing who that someone would be. But it's been about 12 to 15 years that has been going on in our garages on Sundays.
all right, well, I might look to, I think that needs to get adjusted. I'm
No, I'm
afraid.
thinking we're making enough money already on the people that are paying without having to.
What do you mean?
Those numbers tell me that people are paying starting at 11 a.m. More people are paying at 11 a.m. than they are on Friday night at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.
It is serving both purposes right now. Absolutely.
So
I know, but it doesn't seem like it maximizes. I don't see why we're giving everybody a free pass.
maybe we should give
If
them
it's
a
just
free
for
pass on Friday
churchgoers,
night.
let's focus it on churchgoers. I know you're saying it's working out anyway, but we could be making more. I mean, our street parkers, everybody downtown is getting a free pass at those hours.
It is everyone, and remember, metered enforcement is a little different. On Sundays, it's, 12 until 7:30. Monday through Saturday, it's 10 until 8:30. I got my times right. So you can still street park on a Sunday anywhere in the street, non-residential neighborhoods, of course. Metered parking up until noon.
Well, and I want to also channel our colleague from, what ward is that, 5? You know, there's more, besides the fiscal reason, there are other reasons to charge for parking. I understand we want to make sure churchgoers have a break. But as far as visitors downtown, if it's free, we're removing any kind of incentive for them to take alternative modes of transportation downtown. In addition to losing out on that money, that's all I'll say.
We
I have
can,
to park, so.
yeah. And look, you bring up some good points. We could dig a little deeper into those numbers and see what Sunday is looking like and seeing if there is an opportunity for us to increase our, revenue, but at the same time honor the folks that are coming in for church.
Yeah, I guess that'd be an interesting way to look at the data. I know you may not want to advertise that, but yeah, look at the revenue. If the revenue generation is, if it's altered on Sunday because that, or if it is it consistent more or less with Saturday,
Yeah.
because that would tell you a lot as far as are we losing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so we'll do that, Jason. We'll take a look at it and see what we can come up with. So we'll take that Sunday example and just dive into those numbers and seeing what we could find. If there is a tweak that we can make, we'll bring it up.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Thanks.
More paid parkers on Sunday at 2 p.m. than any other time during the week. I think that we're good.
That doesn't tell you how much.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Several months back, and I'll get to your question. Several months back, we talked about the fact that if I'm a resident using my 2-hour free parking code, that once that 2-hour time is up, that if I realized I was going to be downtown for another 30 minutes, I could add 30 minutes to my time. That is not the case. I did it. I tried it on Friday, and it didn't let me. It made me do an hour.
No, there are no 30-minute rates in the garage. The smallest rate is an hour.
Okay, so several months ago, we sat here and talked about being able to add increments of time less than an hour for everybody. If I've paid for 2 hours, I should be able to add 15 minutes if I've prepaid and because it should be made up on the other side where if I've prepaid for 3 but only stay for 2, right? So
So we're talking about the difference.
Make sure you speak in the microphone.
When we're talking about the difference between the 15 minutes and an hour, that was related to the promo codes on street, most specifically the resident permit program, because they couldn't code stack or do the multiple day passes. They were forced to buy a session now for my first day and then create a reservation for tomorrow in the future. And that option, that drop down was only available in whole hour units. We've already updated that. That is in 15-minute increments right now. We elected not to go to all the way down to the single minute because that drop down menu would just be exhaustively long. So that's where that did switch. The rates in Hillman are dictated by the concession agreement. So we are currently only able to sell parking or offer parking in units tied to that rate structure. So the smallest rate at Hillman currently is the 1 hour unit. I can certainly reach out to them and see if, there's interest or the ability to add post-purchase durations in smaller increments, but that would additionally require, I think, some product development on my side to be able to offer it only as an extension and not on the front end first purchase.
right. Then that was a misunderstanding by my part because it was the meeting where you told me that you owned the code back in November.
I probably could have delivered it a little clearer. Lots of permit programs, lots of promo codes with different policies depending on, where it's being utilized. The resident codes on street are very different than those Hillman 2-hour codes.
Yeah, that was my recollection. My recollection was that we did break it up in 15-minute increments, but exactly what Brendan said, it was for, the resident side. So, yeah.
Right. The number one request that I have from residents on garage parking is if they're having to decide and prepay, that if they come to the fact that they've actually had to wait for a restaurant for an extra half hour, so they're running late, to be able to add time enough for them to pay their check and get back to their car without getting that $50 fine.
So I think we
if
could do it.
work on,
So I think we could do it with with the extension side of it. I think we could work on that. So
that would be great.
We actually do have an active product called a start-stop session, and that is for the parker who has no idea how long they're going to stay. They come in, they park, they start their session, And that's going to kind of do a soft hold for the max daily rate on that payment method. When they come back to their car and hit stop, it's going to see how many hours they're there, find out where their pricing is in that rate structure, and that's what they're going to be charged for the day. I'll work with Jason and find a better way to publicize that so the public knows that that is an option.
So that's a current option?
Yes.
First I've heard of it. Thank you. Alderman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll follow on a question that Alderman Savage asked about removing the non-church goers. Would we then strike an uneven balance for the non-church goers who are not going to church, but maybe going to brunch or a restaurant downtown? Does that affect the economy downtown? Possibly. But then you have the non-church goers or the church goers even that go downtown after church. But so you got a combination of folks.
Great question. And that's a follow-up to, Alderman Savage, question. I think we need to dive deeper into those numbers and be able to answer those questions a little bit better.
Because that might be something that the businesses say, no,
Yes,
we
yes.
want the non-church goers here.
Yes, yes.
to come to brunch or whatever.
Yeah, very good point. And one more thing that I want to, just clarify on the stop and, start-stop session is that it'll still be under those same rules of the current rate structure. In other words, if someone is here for an hour and 15 minutes, it's going to charge them for 2 hours. So your situation is still valid. In other words, that's one option, right? But the other option is if they're getting a text that says, hey, you want to extend it, at that point that they're able to extend it for 30 minutes, because even on the stop, start and stop, session, it's still going to revert back to the 1 hour increments, which is not going to resolve the issue. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that the start stop has always been there, but it's still going to go back to the same buckets of, the current rate structure. So we'll look at that and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there other questions? Do you have any? All right. I guess that's all the questions for today. I appreciate it. And everybody that has the 2 hour Hillman code, that renews in January of 25. Am I correct?
January, I do believe that's correct.
Okay. And does that renew in January of 25 even if I apply for it today?
Yeah, and we're going to handle it similarly to, the annual resident permit process where there's a clean break, just because people do move out of the city. I don't think that just because somebody applied recently tells me that they've just recently moved here. They may have lived there for a while, just finally found the need to go to Hillman and still, have that same opportunity to not qualify for it in the future. So we're just trying to offset it in year increments, but by selecting January, it's the opposite quarter of the resident permit program. So our two biggest lifts will be these two massive request periods.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I have had, in the last 2 weeks, 5 residents that I brought down to the garage and walked them through how to sign up for it. So, how to sign up for parking, and at the same time we did the 2 hour free because they said that they didn't want to come downtown anymore because it was too confusing.
Would a sign or something kind of addressing how to use
There's too many
promo code
signs.
specifically be helpful?
Now they say there's too many signs. So we'll keep working on it, but there are lots of residents that are still signing up. So that was a question they had. Thank you. I appreciate the update and your time today, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there anything else our committee would like to add? All right, I'll take a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. We are adjourning at 5:05
All
PM.
right.